To
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this WellStart webinar, The 3 High Hurdles to Weight Loss and Health, How to Stop Self-Sabotage on Your Big Change Journey. So our special guest tonight is Ronald Tibbs. Hello, Ron.
Hey, Howard, how you doing tonight?
Good, good. We were just bantering a little bit beforehand about how in some ways Ron is the absolute wrong person to be presenting this
Uh,
because for some reason we'll get to your story, but
yeah,
there's a lot of those mistakes you avoided. So we're going to position you as the one who is wise enough to avoid mistakes. I'll describe them, and I've made them all. So between the two of us, we'll have everything covered. Um,
sounds good.
so, to the agenda, we're going to talk about a couple of different models of behavior change. One of them is going to sound so ridiculous, you'll think, well, no one could possibly believe that until we prove to you that actually almost everyone believes it and acts as if it's true. And that's why everybody fails. Then we're going to look at a different model that is actually useful and diagnostic. And that's the one we use as WellStart coaches to help our clients on their journeys. And it's also something we apply to ourselves, right? When we're looking to make a change and we're finding some resistance, we can use this second model. And the model then explains where we get stuck. And so these 3 high hurdles are specifically focused on the places where we get stuck. So we're going to talk about them and how to overcome them, and end with an invitation if anyone's interested. I just found out, Ron, that we're not starting the next WellStart cohort on July 29th, but on August 5th.
Okay,
So people have a little bit more time to sign up.
well, that's great.
So, yeah, so this is me. I write books with smart, famous people. I'm also the chief of behavioral science, or chief habit nerd, at WellStart Health. I'm the host of the Plant Yourself podcast. I'm claiming the title, and I want to see if I can, get a trademark on it, as the world's humblest health coach. So WellStart is kind of built around stories of dramatic health improvement. So Josh was our patient zero. This was him in 2012. Josh Lajani, one of the co-founders and coaches. And he must have done something right between 2012 and 2016, because this is him less than 4 years later. And he actually looked pretty much like this a couple of years later. So, his 2 big things were plants and running, but in fact, his big thing was the mindset shift, that changing the way he approached making changes. And once we discovered Josh and we started the company, we started finding all these other people who had made dramatic changes, including the dapper man you see in front of you today.
Oh,
We're stylishly rocking the giant headphones.
it's to cover my giant ears.
You notice I'm not wearing the headphones anymore. My wife, when I look, says, they make your cheeks look fat.
Oh yeah,
Get earbuds. So
think about it.
so here I am, but you don't have that problem. Tell us your story.
Oh, well, I guess we can keep it short. It started, when I was young, but the meat of this is, bad pun there. On my 40th birthday, a month after my 40th birthday, I failed a life insurance physical. And I had been a Marine for 9 years. And after I was discharged, I became a police officer in Northern California. So I'd always considered myself fairly fit and healthy, with that kind of lifestyle, just eating the standard American diet. Grew up on pan-fried pork chops and, all of that fare. And of course, with that macho, testosterone-fueled meathead mentality of being a Marine and the police world, it just continued. And that's what we were told was the appropriate diet. So weight crept on post-retirement. Month after my 40th birthday, I failed that life insurance physical, and it kind of opened my eyes. It was really scary. I went through a lot of testing, and what it ended up being is that I had a lot of symptoms for chronic conditions that I didn't have, that they couldn't clearly diagnose, except for one, which was a stage 3 liver disease, what they call NASH, or non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, which is fibrosis in the liver.
And before you, are you okay talking about sort of the emotional behavioral stuff that was going on at the same time?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I think that's, because if people are like, okay, well, he was just eating badly and he got sick, and like there's a lot more to the story, right? There's more layers to how you were coping with.
Yeah, absolutely. It was several years earlier. After, when I became a police officer, I was working in Northern California, and some of that time I spent in a small community called East Palo Alto. It's near Stanford University, just south of San Francisco. And in the early 90s, it was the murder capital of the United States per capita. A lot of gangs, a lot of drugs, drive-by shootings. And I started work there in 94 with my civilian street work. So there was a lot of stress involved with that. And I'd been injured several times, required surgeries, ultimately that resulted in my retirement on disability. And through that was some mild PTSD, marriage problems. I was on my second marriage. And of course, that job wasn't, it's not conducive to a marriage that's not really communicative. You don't communicate well, I guess the word I'm trying to find there. And I'd been drinking since I was 13. And it was at this time then that alcohol played a huge role in just self-medication, in helping me get through those stresses and again, just those abuses, self-abuses. And I had a doctor who was really liberal with his prescription pad. And I would just tell him, hey, these combinations of nerve and pain medications that you've given me aren't working. So why don't we try something else? And I was, of course, stacking those and combining those and using those with the beer. And it was in 99 that I hit a bad place, rock bottom, which kind of leads to why you say, or we both agree that I'm probably the last person that would be someone who would talk about the roller coaster and the on and off the path kind of thing. Is that you say I was smart enough to avoid all those pitfalls or avoid, those issues. And I think probably it'd be better said that I was just too dumb to see that I had a problem. And I had to get to that very bottom place before I woke up.
Yeah, you take the express elevator down and up.
That's it. Right. There's no playing around. Yeah.
So in a nutshell, what'd you do to get the reversal we see from left to right and the weight, cholesterol, triglycerides, and liver disease?
Yeah. So the alcohol and all of that stopped in 99. It was just after, I guess I wouldn't call it a failed suicide attempt, that I was committed and spent some time in the hospital for suicidal depression, and got the proper counseling and family support and made it through all that. And that was in 1999. So in 2004, with the failed physical, I had the testing, and the nutrition wasn't discussed in any of it. I had liver problems, I had bone marrow problems. They thought I might have had some rare form of blood cancer, elevated enzymes and hormones and all kinds of things. They just couldn't put a pin on it. And they told me there was nothing they could do for me except keep an eye on things, and my liver would continue to get sick, and probably in about 10 years, develop primary liver cancer or require a liver transplant. And true to about that timeline, in 2012, 8 years later, I was pretty much circling the bottom of the drain. My body was shutting down. My weight had really ballooned up. I had cluster migraine headaches, really severe eye infections, red rashes all over my body, no energy, lethargic. And I said, well, this isn't how it's going to happen. I'm not going to check out this way. So again, I hit that rock bottom place, and I decided to do something about it, and jumped on the internet. And that, like with many people, that life preserver of the documentary Forks Over Knives was key in starting my education. And once I studied it for a while and became a student of it, and, being sort of a science brain guy, it looked legitimate, and, it worked in my head. So let's just give it a try. So cold turkey from one day to the next, my wife and I both, and just with the clean fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and whole grains, removing all the processed and fast food, the fake food, the highly refined, and all the animal products, it pretty much took care of itself. It was just eating those, delicious foods and letting my body do what it really wanted to do naturally, which is to be healthy and in a stasis, just be balanced. Once I got out of the way, it did itself. So it took care of itself.
Right. So we're going to be kind of reflecting based on that story on like what other people can do to change. Right. So you had a 2-stage shift when, like, each time you identified a problem, you then addressed it, and you addressed it seriously. So,
yeah,
like sort of like, a Marine storming a beach or something like.
That's basically it. It just, you finally you have your decision, you make up your mind to do something, and you just do it. And again, I think that could be maybe attributed to sort of an addictive personality.
Right. So let's hang on to the idea of, like, you make your decision and then you just do it, because that's going to be, because, as you know, most people, that's not how it plays out.
Exactly.
And so, but it's possible for it to play out that way with some shifts. So let's get into that. And by the way, folks who are attending live, you can ask questions and chat, and we'd love to hear from you to make sure that we're providing relevant stuff. So here's this implicit model of behavior change, the one that I said anyone would look at and say, well, that's obviously a load of BS. And the 2 tenets are: once you know the right thing to do, you just do it. And once you decide on the right thing to do, you just do it. So unfortunately, Ron, you are a counterexample to the implicit model of behavior change. So let's say it's not complete malarkey, but it works for you. It worked for you. And it works for a very small number of people. And I would say, if that's you, if you can just know what to do and do it, make a decision and do it, then you should absolutely do it. And you probably don't need to listen to us anymore. Right? Go watch Forks Over Knives.
Yeah.
Read Sick to Fit, and go do it. But most people aren't in that category. So and so let's prove that this is how everybody thinks about it. What is a New Year's resolution? If not, okay, I've made a decision that on January 1st, I'm going to start doing something, and I'm going to keep doing it for the rest of my life, whether it's go to the gym 3 times a week, or give up sugar, or meditate, or stop yelling at my kids, right? It's like, okay, this is the decision, and I'm just going to do it. And people go into this, and maybe as ex-military and ex-cop, you had an appreciation of force. Like, you wouldn't go in solo into, I'm making this stuff up because I watch TV, into like a gang den, just you and a bunch of gang members with, AR-15s or something. Like, you would make sure you had superior force.
Yeah, I guess if I were smart, I would, but you're not always smart, but yeah.
You would try for that.
Yeah.
Right. You don't go into a fight knowing that you're shorthanded if you can help it.
If you can help it, yeah.
And the truth is, when we are going to change a behavior, very often it's a fight. We're fighting against our own habits. We're fighting against our conditioning. We're fighting against all of our friends who are used to us doing it this way and might be threatened by our change. We're fighting against all the triggers in the environment that we have been conditioned to respond a certain way. And it's really unrealistic to not take all of that into account when you're making a change.
Absolutely.
But we believe that all I have to do is, I have this incredible agency, and I just have to know what to do and decide, And that means if I fail, it's because I was lazy, I'm unmotivated, I'm undisciplined, or any other I am ... statement that people make. I could never be a runner because I am not a morning person, we hear, right? I'd like to eat better, but you wouldn't believe the sweet tooth I have. I can't resist sugar, right? So these are all, variations on the same melody of there's something wrong with me. I'm just not good enough to do what I should do, which is just do.
Exactly.
So we prefer WHAM, which is the WellStart Health Attainment Model. And what is beautiful about WHAM is that it's a diagnostic model, because the problem with the other model is if you know what to do and you've decided what to do and you don't do it, then the only diagnostic conclusion you can come to is that there's something wrong with you, right? Which isn't very helpful or empowering.
No.
Instead of that, we want to say, like, where can we intervene? So here it is. The base layer is motivation. So we read this from the bottom up. The foundation is motivation, as in, I want the thing that the change is going to get me. We don't have to want the change. I don't have to love running, but I need to want to get in better shape. All right. I don't need to love eating healthy, but I need to want to reverse my disease or lose weight. So that's, if we don't want to do it, right, we're multiplying everything else by zero. The next stage above that is self-efficacy, which is answering the question, I can do it, or I believe I can do it. Because we tend to do things that we think we can do if we want to. And we tend not to attempt things that we don't think we can do. The next three layers are the forks over knives layers: strategy, tactics, and ability. Strategy is I know what to do. Tactics is I know how to do it. And ability is I can actually do it. So if you think about something like making an oil-free stir fry. So the fact that you can cook without oil and you can have a plate that is, grain and vegetables and doesn't have a big hunk of meat or cheese on it or some big processed food, that's strategy, right? Forks over knives will tell you, this is the way to go. This is the way to get healthy. The tactics are the details. So here's how you stir fry without oil. You can use broth, you can use water, you can dry sear, all that stuff. You might want to get an Instant Pot for the rice or a rice cooker. Bragg's is nice if you don't have, high blood pressure. All that stuff is the specific learnings. And then ability is actually going and doing it and practicing doing the thing until it's in your muscle memory. So those are very straightforward. Once that you want to do it and you believe you can do it, we can kind of blow through strategy, tactics, and ability pretty easily. But it's the next one that is really where people fall down. It's the follow through. So it's like someone who wants to stop yelling at their kids. I bet they're highly motivated, right? Once they've come to this realization, I get out of control. They know they can because sometimes they don't. Mm-hmm. So the strategy is just keep your mouth shut, right? The strategy is like, speak to them respectfully, ask questions, right? Explain consequences. Don't just shout it out. Tactics are like specific words and phrases you could use to get the conversation going. Ability, especially something like that, like you don't need ability to not do something. I was talking with Peter Bregman the other day, and he's like, anything that like a dead person can do better than me, right? Like if a dead guy wouldn't yell at my kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Sleeping or in a coma. So ability, everyone has the ability to not say something. But even with all those five stacked up, people still don't do it all the time. And follow through is, I can do it. I do it every time. Even when my motivation slips a little, I don't really feel like it. Even when I'm tired. Even when I'm low blood sugar. Even when my kids are really provoking me. even when other people are yelling at their kids, right? Even when I'm in a crappy mood. So it's follow through that is where people get stuck 97% of the time. And I made that number up. And once you get past follow through, you get into identity, which is where we are now. We do it, and it's not a struggle anymore. We don't walk around going, it's like someone, Glenn Livingston, a friend of ours and a teacher of a way of not binge eating called Never Binge Again, talks about like if you don't rob banks, it's not because you practice not robbing banks. It's simply your identity. You are not a bank robber. You're not the sort of person who does that. So at a certain point, you become, I'm the sort of person who speaks respectfully to my kids. I'm the sort of person who puts healthy food on my plate. So again, the follow through is where people get stuck. And here's what we see again and again. And so even if you're not an example of all these, Ron, you're still a coach. And so you still see this. So
yeah.
And so let's get into the 3 high hurdles. Hurdle number 1 is what I call the wagon illusion, as in, oh, I fell off the wagon. All right. Which is to say, I was doing good. So think of that New Year's resolution. And let's say it's about not eating sugar. And for 2 weeks, I managed to avoid sugar. And then one day I'm in the office and someone comes out when they had a birthday and they're a nice person and they ask me if I want some, and they look like they're going to be hurt if I say no. And so I have sugar. I have the piece of cake. It's really good. So then there's a bunch of cookies. I have some of those. I get a soda on the way home. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I fell off the wagon. And the imagery of that is that the wagon is still moving. It's up the hill and I'm sitting on my butt and my knees are skinned and I'm dusty. And I'm stopped, and it's over, right? Because
no desire to go after that wagon,
right? And it's so that one and done means that it's more proof. So it goes down to that second layer of lack of self-efficacy. No matter how much I want it, I can't stick to a diet. They all fail. Every time I try to join a gym or do an exercise program, or go running or walking, whatever, it never lasts. I don't stick with things. And I hear this again and again and again. I'm wondering if this is something that you also see as a coach.
Absolutely.
So how do you help people with that?
Well, there can be many different reasons why, they get stuck or they have that frustration. You mentioned, not wanting to seem rude. If a coworker brought food in, it's that peer pressure is a huge one. Family pressure. Maybe you're the only person in the house that's interested in this lifestyle change and you don't have that support. So if they get to that point where they've slipped or they've given up, it's just to try to remind them that, they could consider themselves the wagon. They're not on the wagon, that is really who they are. They are the journey and they're on a path. And rather than falling off and having some huge makeup session ahead of them, all they have to do is just stop and think for a second and just say, okay, I stepped off the path sideways a little bit. Now, why don't I just step back on the path and continue right where I left off? And of course, there are a lot of tools to help them do that. If it's changing maybe their goal or their most immediate, their goal or rule that they've set for themselves, maybe that requires a little bit of an adjustment to fit their situation a little more closely. And we get them back on that path again.
Right. And something that I tell people, so this is usually a very sensitive conversation because people don't really want to tell me, right? When people have this experience, oh, I fell off the wagon, they want to disappear. So if they're coaching with us, they can start ghosting us. Or if they're in and so as part of WellStart, we front load an antidote to this. And we beg people, like the minute you decide, I can't show up tonight, I can't text my coach, I can't go on the forum, I can't join the call because I'm embarrassed, because I'll drag everybody else down. Like that's the moment you get back and you reach out. So we front load this idea of you are a human being. Human beings make mistakes. Failure is part of this journey.
Absolutely. And
And
with those failures, as I learned from you and Kevin, is that through those mistakes or whatever you want to call them, is that's where the learning occurs, and that's where we get to learn about ourselves as animals or human beings, and why we are the way we are. And it's through those issues that we understand, oh, okay, well, that's just natural.
yeah, and
I'm not an odd person. I'm not a failure. I'm supposed to be this way.
yeah, and the failures strengthen us,
Absolutely.
and they build our self-efficacy when we get back up. Like, Kevin is a huge baseball fan. He roots for the Cubs, which doesn't make any sense to me. But
I guess that's like me being a Cincinnati Bengals fan for football. So
uh-huh.
yeah, it's bad.
Okay, right. But it's like if a team won all their games and then they go into the postseason untested and they won all their games easily, they didn't have to fight for anything. They're not sure how good they are.
Exactly.
Right? It's what you can rebound from, what you can recover from, builds your confidence. Otherwise, it's like the person who gave up sugar on New Year's. You go 2 weeks. Okay, I did it for 2 weeks. Oh, I did it for a month. I did it for 2 months. But you don't know that you can get back. So the longer you go, the more frightened you are, the higher the stakes of failure.
Exactly.
As opposed to, oh, I just had a sugar binge. Tomorrow I'm coming in and I'm restarting. I'm going to learn from what happened. I'm going to use those tools that we teach at WellStart to assess and make new plans for next time. And there doesn't have to be any wagon trundling up the hill without us.
Nope.
Right.
And it's through those. One of the things you said was that really brought it home. It makes it easy to understand. Is you don't decide one day you're going to be an Olympic track star and just go out the next day and win a gold medal. It's all of those fights. It's all of that pain and that struggle and training those muscles to become better. It's the same with our behaviors. You have to train those behavior muscles, those habits, to become stronger and to have confidence in those, to understand, hey, I can do this. This is who I am now.
Right.
And I think that's very powerful when people can start to feel that even in the slightest little bit.
Right on. Number 2, exercise as atonement. And we see this a lot, especially around weight loss. Right. So when people say, oh, I've overeaten. And I think I want to broaden this into just sort of atonement in general. Like some people will do exercise as atonement. Oh, I overate, so now I have to work out for 3 hours really hard at the gym. Mm-hmm. But people also will use food as atonement. Like, oh, I overate, so I'm going to fast for 3 days.
Exactly.
And I think I love fasting. I think it's an incredible tool. And a hammer is also an incredible tool, but you can hit yourself in the head with it and not get any benefit. And fasting, when you use fasting, anything to any heroic effort that is not part of a sustainable lifestyle, that, okay, because I screwed up, now I've got to overcome it, is a recipe for failure. It's almost like we think of, okay, I'm overeating, that's bad. I'm over-exercising, that's good. They're actually two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
That any sort of thing that's like punishment, that I'm going to push my body because of another thing that I did to overcome it, to compensate for it, is actually, it's like a seesaw, or let's say a pendulum. The pendulum swings too far towards, I am restricting myself, I am, hurting myself, I'm punishing myself. That has to lead back to another indulgence.
Yeah.
Got anything here?
No, I think you explained it. Another thing too is with the calorie restriction. It's like you said, a hammer is an effective tool as long as it's used properly. Fasting, when done properly, can be very effective. But if you're doing it to make up for something, then it's wrong. And we also, other than restricting calories or just not eating at all, sometimes we'll overeat as a punishment. And I guess that's maybe a little bit of a different topic, but that's kind of the same thing as, oh, I ate these donuts and, oh, I'm so bad. Screw it. I'll just have the last 3 in the box to just, get it over with.
Yeah, like I can't, the only thing I can do is finish
Just
sinning, like speed up my sin so
yeah,
I can atone, I can start again sooner.
exactly. It's like the
Right.
lashes on the back, you know. Make it really bad so it's worth the crime.
Right. I was talking to a podcast guest today, Adrienne Marie Brown, who wrote a book called Pleasure Activism. And we were kind of exploring this idea, pleasure, but pleasure can be like junk food, or pleasure can be nourishing, life giving
Hmm.
experiences. And she talked about like she's doing intermittent fasting. And I loved the way she talked about it. She said, like, I love the 6 hour window when I get to eat. It's like all this stuff I can have, and all this, like, what do I need, and what does my body need, and how am I going to carry it through? And then she said, and the 18 hours of fasting I love because I don't have to think about food anymore.
Mm,
Right? It's freedom from
yeah,
worrying about what am I going to eat. So in both cases, she's viewing this as a positive, as opposed to, okay, I'm gonna grit my teeth and show this body. I'm gonna put this body in timeout for being
exactly.
bad.
Exactly. It's incredible how a simple shift in thought or language can be such a positive thing. And I think I really appreciate that aspect of WellStart Health is that is huge in the methodology. And it was very useful for me when I made this transition, this gung ho, all in or nothing transition. A lot of that was anger. A lot of that was just learning and setting myself up for success with understanding it, becoming a student. But I also became frustrated with why doesn't everybody know this?
Mm-hmm.
So I just came forth with my war hammer and tried to pound it home to everybody. And it doesn't work that way. If you're not ready for it, and it becomes a big negative thing. So with these tools that I've learned now through WellStart and with your training and just these things that can help people with the simplest little shift in thought or message delivery, it's incredible the success and the progress that you can make. It's been really helpful.
Yeah, and most of us who adopt this lifestyle want to spread it. Like
Absolutely.
as soon as we trust it and believe it and see its benefits, we
Hmm.
want to spread it. And we're not going to be very attractive to other people if it looks like we're just punishing ourselves all the time.
Exactly. And there's no, you're not looked down upon. There's no ridicule here. There's no, oh, look what they did. They couldn't do it. It's very supportive. And you mentioned earlier, we encourage these moments of failure or whatever title or language you want to use to, coming off your path. That's when it's most important to come out, because not only do you grow, but you help others who may be in your situation and who have not had the strength or the self-confidence to bring that forward. And those are the most cherished moments in a coaching session. We all learn from that, and we really just appreciate that. So
That is so true. When people start to do something brave, which is to be vulnerable
mhm,
in this, it's not a public forum, but it's a closed group forum, but
yeah,
still they're they're showing something tender of themselves, and for them to feel accepted,
mhm.
um, is a tremendous gift that the community gives to each other. All right, number 3, motivation as a punctured tire. And this idea, I think this one you do embody, the idea that we think that we get excited about the beginning, with the honeymoon phase of behavior change, that 2 weeks of no sugar, that 2 weeks of going to the gym, and then one day we just don't feel like it anymore. Like, oh, that cake is so good, I'm just going to have one piece, or I'm for the rest of my life, that was a rash thing. I don't really feel like it, or I don't want to go. I'm tired. I don't want to get up now. And we think that when we're not motivated, that we then are done.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you were motivated every single day
Yeah,
to eat healthy.
yeah. Let me bottle that one up and become a billionaire overnight. No, absolutely not.
Uh,
There were days it's not that I struggled. I didn't have cravings and want to go back, but there were just days I just like, okay, I don't want to cook today. And I love to cook. And there are just some days when I walk in the kitchen, I just, okay, and knowing I can still do what I need to do with that lack of motivation. It's just keeping it simple and moving forward. You just kind of have to accept it. There are days you just aren't there with all of your energy and zeal.
Yeah. And this, for me, this was the biggest thing I learned from Josh is you don't feel like it. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Do it anyway.
Exactly.
Right. Like, and the interesting thing about this is we all understand this intuitively when it comes to every other aspect of our lives. Like, yeah, I don't feel like feeding the kids today.
Yeah.
Like, there were days I did not want to get up in the morning and make lunch for my kids. There were days I did not want to pick them up from school. There were days that I didn't want to go to work, that I didn't want to do the invoice. I never want to do my taxes. I never want to do expenses. Like, I hate that stuff. And yet I do it because I'm a freaking grown-up. And grown-ups do things that they do things because they've committed to them. And the way we feel in the moment is irrelevant to whether they get done or not.
Yeah.
And
I think maybe we could add to that too, just for the sake of, it's the consequences. You understand the consequences if you don't do it. And if they are dire enough, or if they are just to the point where, yeah, it's going to be a significant event, then that sometimes helps. That kind of gets you over the hump, I would think sometimes. It's just like, yeah, I don't want to do it. Just do it anyway. There's that little message probably going on in the back of your brain is you're going through all of the reasons why this is still probably a good idea. If I don't get up and pack lunch for my kids today, I'm probably going to look like a complete idiot father, to the teachers and the adults that have to now feed my children for me. So,
right. See, but I think that happens at the beginning when we're just getting our feet. But after a while, we don't think.
A habit.
Right. We just do. And this is something I learned again from Peter Bregman, is that people think like, okay, well, I stopped, I ate sugar again, so I must have lost my motivation. And now I better think about it. That's why it's a puncture tire, because we can remotivate ourselves. Or as coaches, we can remotivate our clients. It's very easy to remind them why they're doing it. What about your blood pressure? What about your grandchildren's wedding? What about, right? We can get them, I remember, I want to do this. And then tomorrow morning, they're going to have the same thing. It's going to, the air is going to be out of it. So what Peter taught me is that if we approach it as a motivation problem, we're approaching it as a thinking problem. When we approach it as follow through, it's the opposite. It's a not thinking problem. So if you simply do not think, but just do, motivation becomes irrelevant.
Yeah.
And what we talk about in Sick to Fit, this is again something that I kind of got from Josh, is that when we are unmotivated is the most exciting time to do something. That's when you get the most growth. Those days when you really don't feel like it and you do it anyway, that is what brings you to the point of now it's a habit, now it's my identity.
Yeah.
All right. We got through that really good, really fast. So I had, go ahead.
I know if you had some questions, I was going to say too, that I think maybe sticking points. Now, again, I hadn't had that roller coaster ride, that many people suffer from. And to address some of those issues that I was able to avoid, one is I had support at home. A lot of people don't. It was my wife and I both, started this journey together. Two, with my retirement, I had plenty of time and I became a student of what this was supposed to be, forks over knives. I, researched and watched every YouTube video and TED Talk on all the scientists and the clinicians that were in the video and the documentary. I read books and I kind of learned how to evaluate scientific reports or scientific studies and understand what is a good study and what is maybe flawed in its presentation. So I had that time to do those things and I got myself a good foundation there to set up for success. Now, I had no idea if it was going to work. It looked good. The science sounded right. So that's when I decided, okay, it's right. Let's do it. And because I did it 100%, I didn't just add a little bit of this or remove a little bit of that. So I removed all of those temptations right away. There was nothing in the house that was going to pull me back or draw me back. And I think because I was able to start so cleanly, I was able to see the results maybe more quickly than others might who are embarking on a new lifestyle or a new diet. And once you start to see those results, even in the form of biomarkers being reduced, 9.5 weeks after I made the transition, I had already had my first physical scheduled. And it was going to be blood draw and the whole bit, just trying to keep an eye on my liver and the whole week, which I would do every year after the first of the year. And all of those biomarkers that showed that I was sick in the past 8 years were all now down to a normal or low normal range. My hematocrit was low. My ferritin was down. My liver function was normal. My blood pressure was down. My cholesterol went from probably well over 214, which was the last time I had it tested, down to 127 and eventually 125. Triglycerides from over 400 down to like 108. So seeing those results immediately was like, okay, this is it. I'm in 100%. Now, maybe if I had not had that success, I don't know.
Well, a couple of things to respond to there. One is I'm really glad you listed all the advantages that you had, because what people's minds do when they are, you can see it says how to join. So wellstarthealth.com/program. So we're inviting people to go on this journey with us. And what people's minds do is there's a part of them that is looking for all the reasons why Ron can do it and they can't.
Yeah.
So you just made it easy for them. Right. So they're going to say, well, Ron had support at home and I don't. So he could do it, but I can't. Ron was retired, so he had time. Ron had a background in understanding science and I don't. Ron had the personality where he could jump in 100% and I need to go gradually. Therefore, I can't succeed. And the truth is, whatever Ron said, that part of your brain is going to be in overdrive, looking for every difference. Oh, Ron has a goatee and I don't. Ron looks good in headphones and I look chubby. So therefore, obviously, right? Like it's our brain does this. Like I remember, gosh, it must have been 2007 when I was in the internet marketing world. And at a time I was like the #2 guy about Google AdWords education. I'd written a For Dummies book, but there was a guy who was like way more successful than me at it, way more popular. He had actually been one of my teachers here. And I was visiting him and I kept on like looking for clues, like why was he so successful and I wasn't? Looking back, it's because he was working 16 hours a day and I was working like 4.5.
Yeah.
But what I got to, and this is so embarrassing to say, is we were in his basement and he had to send out some packages and he had this packing tape dispenser that was way better than mine. It was on like rollers. It didn't make that noise, that.
Yeah.
It was like smooth. The thing you could cut really easily, and I'm like, I need to get me one of them. Right, like just whatever if we feel uncomfortable or ashamed or scared of disappointment, we will use whatever it takes to differentiate ourselves from someone who has succeeded. Mm-hmm. So that's why, our coaches include you, they include Sarah, who was born with hip dysplasia and had 7 operations by the age of 15, was addicted to drugs and alcohol, and now is training for the 2020 Olympics in butterfly. We have Josh, who was 420 pounds, at one point had been dealing drugs, dropped out of school. Everyone in his family was heavy, part of Cajun culture where eating and drinking is, and yet people are going to find reasons why he could succeed and they couldn't. Yeah. So understand that if your brain is doing that, that's part of its job. Like that's our wiring. It's going to try to make you feel okay about failing because there's these reasons, because you have excuses that nobody else has.
Now, we all have our excuses, but we're all different, but we all ended up kind of in the same place. It's like, I could flip that too. You say, I'm giving everybody an excuse not to do this. But as this journey, I was finding out about people like Rich Roll and Brendan Brazier and Scott Jurek and, all these ultra endurance triathletes that I would never be. I could never be a Josh. I just don't have it physically or mentally in me to run that far for that long. Does that mean I can't succeed and do these things? No. I found my path and it worked. And that's exactly what everybody, can do. I don't care that you and Josh could run circles around me, and I spent 9 years in the Marine Corps when we're supposed to be some of the biggest badasses on the planet. It just doesn't work that way, So
right.
It's incredible. And it's that mindset that I really appreciate having learned to help work through. All of those triggers, all of those sticking points, all of those excuses that people come up with. It's huge now to be able to see that and learn from that from other people and help them move through those spots.
Right. Again, the gift of showing someone that they don't have to believe their thoughts.
Absolutely.
Or they can believe them, but act anyway in the hopes of disproving them. Like Glenn Livingston has this sentence that I love. He uses a lot in his on his website too, when he's trying to convince people to give his program a try. He says, "What if I'm right?"
There you go.
Right. So the WellStart Health program, I had 5 slides on it. I've taken them out because you could read this. If you're interested, go to this URL, wellstarthealth.com/program. You can read about it. Again, we're starting a new cohort on August 5th. Ron is one of the coaches, Sarah, Josh, Kevin, Carolyn, who am I forgetting?
Denise is coming on, is that what you said? Or
we've got new dietitians. Nancy's onboarded. We have Anthony. I just did a podcast with Lauren, our new dietitian, who's a thriving type 1 diabetic. Another person with more excuses to be unhealthy than most people. And
I was able to start that podcast a little bit earlier. I have to go and finish it now, but it's just incredible. I got goosebumps listening. Yeah. Went through as a young woman, a girl, a child, and just incredible.
Yeah. So folks who are watching live, any questions, you can post it in chat or Q&A. Got all the windows open. So just if you want to formulate it, just type yes so I know to wait. Otherwise,
I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, you're still on California time, so it's not that late for you.
Yeah, I'm early. I've got all night. You can go to bed. I'll just take care of everybody here and close it out later for you.
All right, yeah. Remember, I'll be watching, so don't.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I got to be careful what I say.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't see any questions, so I'm going to interpret that as we explained everything perfectly. So Ron, thank you again for taking the time today, for sharing your story, for sharing the express ride down and the express ride back up, and for all the advocacy and the coaching and the work you do, and helping people, find their own footing and take control of their own health destinies.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. We did get a thank you to both of us from, I guess it's Brianne. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. Yeah, Brianne.
Yeah, cool.
You're more than welcome. My pleasure, certainly.
Ditto.
Yeah, and if people want to reach out, then just contact me privately or through Facebook or whatever. If you have a question, maybe you don't want to ask it here in a public forum or semi-public forum, I totally understand. I'll be happy to answer any question, and if I don't know the answer, we can find it together. So certainly.
Cool. Thanks. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, ask Ron.
Well, I know you're so busy, Howard. If I can, keep them off your plate.
Yeah.
If I don't know an answer, who do I go to first? Typically is you. So we just cut me out as the middle person and you handle it.
Yeah, I know. It's hard now that I'm working more than 4.5 hours a day.
Yeah.
It's hard to find the time. All right, man.
All right.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you, everyone in the future. It's like science fiction. All you future people for watching this
Yeah,
recording.
exactly.
And we would love to see you, if not August 5th, then in an upcoming WellStart program, if you think that's something that would be useful for you. All right. Good night.
Take care.
Bye.